Picture this. You're not in a sterile museum, staring at dusty artifacts behind glass, but standing on the sun-scorched earth of ancient Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization. The air hums with life, baked clay, exotic spices from a bustling market, the faint metallic clang of a blacksmith's forge. Before you towers a ziggurat, a man-made mountain of brick, its steps climbing toward a sky of impossible blue, as if reaching for the gods themselves. This is the Fertile Crescent, where humanity first built cities, wrote laws, and charted the stars. But step inside the cool, shadowed halls of the temple, and you'll witness something shocking. A ritual so alien to our modern minds it might chill your blood. A sacred act of sex, not hidden in shame, but celebrated as divine. Welcome to a world where sexuality was not just personal, but cosmic, a force of creation, destruction, and everything in between. Mesopotamia, the land between the Tigris and Euphrates, birthed the foundations of our world. The alphabet, the concept of time, the first epic poems. Its people, Sumerians, Akkadians, Babylonians, were pioneers, thinkers, builders. Yet their understanding of sexuality was unlike anything we know today. It wasn't just a private act of love or lust. It was a sacred drama, a reflection of the universe's most powerful forces. In their temples, sexuality was worship. In their laws, it was a matter of life and death. In their poetry, it was raw, unfiltered passion. And in their fears, it was a gateway to demons. This is the story of how the Mesopotamians harnessed, celebrated, and feared the untamed river of human desire. A story that reveals the heart of a civilization and echoes in our own. In the heart of Mesopotamian cities stood temples dedicated to Inanna, later Ishtar, the goddess of love, war, fertility, and destruction. She was no gentle deity but a force of raw, chaotic power, sensuous, passionate, untamable. To worship her was to embrace the creative and destructive energy of nature itself. Her myths tell of countless lovers, gods and mortals alike, her desires as unstoppable as a flood or famine. Within her temples, priestesses called Natatu performed a ritual that shocks modern sensibilities, sacred prostitution. Adorned in fine linens, their eyes lined with kohl, their hair braided and perfumed, these women offer their bodies to strangers in the name of Inanna. This was not the degrading trade we associate with prostitution today. It was a divine transaction, a prayer made flesh to ensure the fertility of the land, livestock, and people. The act was believed to mirror the cosmic union of the gods, encouraging divine favor for abundant harvests and healthy children. The Greek historian Herodotus, writing centuries later, described a Babylonian custom where every woman, once in her life, sat in the temple precinct of Ishtar, waiting for a stranger to toss a silver coin into her lap and say, "I demand you in the name of the goddess." She could not refuse, regardless of the man's appearance or status. The coin sanctified the act, and only after fulfilling this duty could she return home. Historians debate whether Herodotus exaggerated or misunderstood this practice. Perhaps it was limited to certain women or symbolic in nature, but the core idea remains. In Mesopotamia, sex could be a sacred, compulsory act, inseparable from the survival of civilization. These priestesses were not outcasts. Many were literate, owned property, and held significant social power, freedoms rare for women of the time. Their role was one of honor, embodying the goddess's power to ensure the cosmic balance. This public, religious embrace of sexuality stands in stark contrast to later cultures' private, often guilt-ridden views. Outside the temple, a different reality governed Mesopotamian life. The Code of Hammurabi, a 7.5-foot stone pillar inscribed with 282 laws. This code reveals a society obsessed with order, property, and control, especially within marriage. Marriage was not about love, but a business transaction, a transfer of assets between families. The bride, her chastity a non-negotiable asset, was central to this contract. Her virginity guaranteed legitimate heirs, and its loss could dissolve a marriage, disgrace her family, and demand a return of the dowry. Law 129 is chillingly clear. If a wife was caught with another man, both she and her lover would be bound and drowned. There was no room for nuance or extenuating circumstances. A wife's sexuality belonged to her husband, her womb a vessel for his lineage. Adultery was theft, a crime against the family and society structure. Yet, the same law was silent on husbands' infidelity. Men could sleep with slaves, concubines, or temple priestesses without consequence, as long as they didn't infringe on another man's property. This double standard reveals a masterful compartmentalization. In the temple, sex was a sacred act for the goddess. In the home, it was a tightly controlled asset. The coin tossed in the temple was an offering, not payment, lifting the act into the divine realm, free from the laws of marriage and property. Despite the rigid laws, the Mesopotamians carved out space for love and desire. Their love poetry, etched on clay tablets, reveals a world of raw, sensual passion, often from a female perspective. These poems are not about marital duty but chosen love, secret trysts, and aching desire. My beloved, your charm is sweet. I have tasted your honey, one reads. Another describes a lover as a gazelle, swift and beautiful, his eyes stars, his embrace a garden of earthly delights. These verses speak of a love that transcends contracts and social roles, a rebellion of the heart against the cold logic of the law. They show that even in a society obsessed with control, the human heart beat with its own rhythm, defying regulation. The poetry reveals a vibrant, chaotic life pulsing within the rigid structure of marriage and law. The Mesopotamians approached sexuality with remarkable pragmatism. Medical texts detail treatments for sexual ailments, from impotence to infertility, with no trace of shame. Physicians and magical healers prescribed herbs, beer-based concoctions, and incantations to restore manliness or open a barren womb. Aphrodisiacs made from dates and pistachios stir desire. These were not moral issues but practical problems to be solved. Contraception and abortion were also documented. Women used pessaries of honey and acacia gum, known spermicides, or ingested plants to induce miscarriage. An unwanted pregnancy was a social and economic disaster, and the Mesopotamians provided tools, however rudimentary, to manage it. This pragmatism extended to all aspects of sexuality, seen as vital as the harvest and worthy of careful attention. For all their celebration of sexuality, the Mesopotamians feared its darker side. Unchecked desire could attract demons, malevolent spirits that threatened life and vitality. The most feared was Lilith, a demoness of terrifying beauty with wings and talons, who seduced men in their dreams, stealing their seed, and snatched newborns from their mothers. She was the dark reflection of Inanna, embodying sterile, non-procreative desire. Other demons, like the male Lilu and the lion-headed Lamashtu, preyed on women and children. To protect themselves, Mesopotamians used amulets, incantations, and rituals, charms for pregnant women, protective barriers around beds, and incense to purify homes. Sexuality was a vulnerability, a gateway for chaos, and their spiritual arsenal was designed to keep demons at bay, while honoring the divine. Clay tablets reveal the messy reality of everyday Mesopotamian sexuality. For men, sexual opportunities abounded. Prostitutes, slaves, and temple priestesses were socially accepted. For unmarried women of lower status, premarital sex was a recognized reality, but pregnancy outside marriage brought destitution. Homosexuality, while not categorized as we understand it, was tolerated if it aligned with patriarchal roles. Men taking the active role faced no stigma, but the receptive role was feminizing and shameful, except in the temple, where gender-fluid priests served Inanna, their status sanctified. The Epic of Gilgamesh offers the most profound insight into Mesopotamian sexuality. Shamhat, a sacred priestess, civilizes the wild Enkidu through a 6-day, 7-night ritual of sex. This act severs his connection to the animal world, awakening his human consciousness. "You are beautiful, Enkidu. You are like a god," the epic declares. Shamhat is not a temptress, but the agent of civilization, her sexuality a sacred tool that transforms a beast into a hero. She clothes him, teaches him to eat bread and drink beer, and leads him to Uruk, where he meets Gilgamesh. The bond between Gilgamesh and Enkidu is electric, born from a violent wrestling match that blossoms into a love of unparalleled intensity. The text describes it with ambiguous, emotional language. "I will love him as a wife." They kiss, hold hands, fight together, and sleep side by side. Scholars debate whether this is friendship or romantic love, but the Mesopotamian worldview didn't categorize it as we do. Their bond defies the binary of dominant and submissive, existing as a unique, revered connection outside marriage or temple rituals. Enkidu's death shatters Gilgamesh, driving him to confront mortality and seek eternal life. Their love, and its loss, is the epic's emotional core, showing that love in all its forms, sexual, romantic, or fraternal, defines humanity. Yet, for every epic hero, ordinary Mesopotamians faced harsh realities. The law punished acts deemed unnatural, men taking the receptive role, bestiality, incest, with severe penalties like exile or execution. These were not sins, but abominations that disrupted the cosmic order. Love between women is barely mentioned, not because it was accepted, but because it was inconceivable in a patriarchal system where women's sexuality was defined by men. This silence reveals a society that erased vast swaths of human experience. Mesopotamia gave us the first cities, laws, and stories. They mapped the stars, seeking cosmic order, yet struggled to contain the chaotic power of sexuality. They channeled it through sacred rituals, constrained it with brutal laws, celebrated it in poetry, and fought it with incantations. From the temple priestess to the wild man, from the king to the unnamed woman waiting for a stranger's coin, sex was the current beneath everything, a river that nourished and threatened their civilization. Their story reminds us that the struggle to understand desire is as old as humanity itself, written not just on clay tablets, but in the heart of what it means to be human. If this journey through ancient Mesopotamia's untamed river of desire fascinated you, don't keep it to yourself. Like this content to spread the word, share it with friends to spark discussions, and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories that shaped our world. Let's keep exploring the past together. It's a reminder of how far we've come and how much we still share with those who came before us. Your engagement fuels this journey, so hit that like button, share the story, and subscribe to stay connected to the pulse of history.